now Arshad recommended that we have a question answer, because surely there'll be a lot of questions you might want to ask me. Well, so far, according to the latest figures, we are monitoring the figures on a weekly basis now. We have a shortfall of 20%. Could have been much worse, but so far there's a 20% shortfall. So if the budget is 1.1 billion rupees of the hospital, it's the biggest charitable institution in Pakistan today, thanks to all of you. There are a lot of usual suspects sitting here who from day one had been coughing money for Shaukat Khanum. I spot all those faces here. There's Javed and, Arshad and, all the lot. So 20%, and out of that, 40% the hospital generates from within. We have a network of laboratory, pathology collection centers, so we get, people who want to have tests done. We have all over Pakistan. The money that we make from them subsidizes the hospital. But 60% is the shortfall. So it's roughly about 55 to 60 crore rupees. And out of that, 20% shortfall. Well, what is required, of course, is Tehreek-e-Insaf coming to power. Don't laugh, I'm serious. You see, Pakistan is not a poor country. It's a poorly managed country. It's a management crisis in Pakistan. Shaukat Khanum, a hospital you see right in front of you, won, as you saw, an award in Geneva by World Health Organization, gave it an international award. Completely manned now by Pakistani staff, Pakistani doctors. It's a success story. People give it money. Now I have disassociated myself in the sense that I'm no longer hands-on. For the first 5 years, I sat in the cancer hospital. Now I deliberately have moved away from the hospital because it's an institution. Institutions should not rely on individuals. If I was still sitting in the hospital, would have meant that it was not an institution, it was a one-man show. The reason why Shaukat Khanum succeeds is because no one is allowed to violate the law of the hospital, the constitution of the hospital. An ISI general's wife came one day with two hefty-looking soldiers, demanded that they brought a patient that he should be immediately admitted. Two young boys sitting at the reception refused because they said the patient did not meet the criterion, which was in their books. She tried everything. She tried to threaten them. She tried to threaten the chief executive. Not one person budged. After 2 hours, she gave up and actually left a complimentary note to me that, the hospital, she was impressed by, the level of the staff and the principals. That's how institutions work. If you want to build an institution, you have to have rule of law in the institution. If you want to build a country, the country must have rule of law. Why do other institutions not work? Because there's no meritocracy. There's the Safarish system. You have army of ministers. Every minister will force his people to go into an institution and make them, out of turn, they'll be promoted. There's no shortage of generals who've now sitting as vice chancellors of university. Have you ever heard of a general or brigadier vice chancellor of a university? Someone who comes from the most anti-intellectual environment to take over an institution which is all about academics and intellect. So, that's why people this is not even funny. I mean, it's just sad that Pakistan, which is so endowed with talent, has to be this country with the big begging bowl, no self-esteem. You saw or you might not have seen the cartoon in Washington Times with the dog with a chain around its neck, American soldier holding the dog, and on the dog was Pakistan. Or you might have heard about Maulana Fazlur Rahman. Whatever we like him or don't like him, I have my own views about him. But imagine, leader of the opposition turned away from Dubai. And no protest. Remember Dubai 35 years ago when Sheikh Rashid used to come to Pakistan? When Sheikh Rashid used to come to Pakistan, the deputy commissioner used to go and receive him. And here we are now in a situation, I mean, there's no self-respect or self-esteem. A country, which has talented people, which has still the most educated Muslims in the world are Pakistanis. And so we've reached this sorry state because there is no rule of law, no constitutionalism, no democracy, ad hocism. Even if you take cricket, it's don't be fooled that the team has won this match. It's despite the system, not because of the system. So to come back to you, Adiba, I think in Pakistan, the way to stop people from leaving the country is to create institutions which have an environment which is conducive to people working, where meritocracy comes, where people have a stake in the system, that if they work hard, they will go up, not because who they know. And it's not, not a rocket science to build institutions. Pakistan it's very unfortunate that except for 1970, we've never had free and fair elections in the country. All the elections have been controlled by the establishment. And the system as it is now, now evolved, the last two elections were the most rigged elections, blatantly rigged. You just have to read the European Union report on the 2002 election and the International Crisis Group about last week, the report that came out on the local body election. And you will realize that it's just like Hosni Mubarak show. I mean, for 24 years, Hosni Mubarak always wins the elections. So elections don't necessarily mean democracy. You have to have independent institutions like independent judiciary and election commission before you can have democracy. So now coming back to my party. The party was 5 months old when the first elections came. 5 months old party, the establishment backing some other party, we taking on the two major parties, 5 months old, despite being offered a share in the government with the ruling party, we did not accept it, and of course, we were wiped out. Then we were again getting up on our feet, and General Musharraf appears, the savior on the white knight in shining armor, white horse. We all jumped on, we all thought he was the Messiah. Here's me standing up here telling you that I was fooled and conned by him for 2.5 years. I thought he was one of the greatest things that ever happened to Pakistan. I'm so embarrassed about it now, that how at the age of 50 I could have been fooled like this. But the fact is that 80% of Pakistanis like me were fooled too. And we thought here was a man who was going to bring democracy to Pakistan. We believed whatever he said. He said, I'm going to end sham democracy and bring real democracy. I'm going to do accountability. And 2.5 years later, he tells me to join the biggest crooks in Pakistan as part of his reform movement. He called it his reform party. So anyway, our ways parted. And he told me I should be more pragmatic. Means that I should accept all these crooks and criminals and become part of them. And not be idealistic. I told him if I was not idealistic, what the hell would I be doing in politics? And why do I need politics? I'm only in politics because I'm an idealist. Otherwise, I have millions of better things to do with my life. I can't imagine spending my life as a professional politician like Sheikh Rashid. So he turned around and said, but you lose. I said, so what? I'm a sportsman. I'm used to winning and losing. But at least I won't, when I look at myself in the mirror in the morning, I won't be embarrassed of myself. I said, they're not the people you've got. This is the exact conversation that happened. I said, the people you have got with you are not just corrupt, they are icons of corruption. They are role models of corruption. I said, for 11 years, they have been proving their crookedness, and now you've got them with you, and you're telling me to join them, and there will be reform in Pakistan. Anyway, so what happened after that was very predictable. Our brilliant ISI managed to destroy what little was left of our party and almost made me lose the election. But it was because we supported him, and by the time the elections came, controlled elections, we were neither part of the opposition or the government. So we were left high and dry, and so I was lucky to even get one seat. But the change from the first to the second election, I'll just tell you about the vote bank. I mean, I'm talking about the people. Because remember one thing, the people in Pakistan are far, far more politically bright than the American people. They understand politics far more than anyone you can imagine. They're bright. And so when so just to tell you, from the first election to the second election, in the first election I got 18,000 votes from Mianwali. This election, second election, I got the greatest ever vote in the constituency's history. I got 5,000 votes in the first election in Lahore. The second election, and I had money, we had supporters, because people thought that Clinton was backing me. I was part of a Jewish conspiracy, so the Jews were behind me. So a lot of people gave me a lot of money, you know, but the people didn't vote for me. So I only had 5,000 votes from Lahore, despite spending money on voters and workers. Second election, we had no workers. No one gave us any money because we were up against the military establishment. I got 18,500 votes from Lahore. When the winning margin in the first election, when I got 5,000 from Lahore, the winning margin was 70,000. Second election, when I got 18,500, the winners had 25,000, low turnout. So the vote bank went up. But we just didn't have the candidates. I mean, imagine, forget me, Muslim League Noon, which had the biggest vote bank in Punjab, that was wiped out. It had only 13 seats in the parliament. So imagine, you know, a young party when the ISI sort of decided to dismantle you, what you could do against them. So therefore, you know, the people do vote. They have understanding. But unfortunately, we could not fight the last election properly. This election, of course, is the first time when we are going to go in. We are prepared. Our party is built as an opposition party. People know our stance. Our vote bank has gone up even further. We will fight in a coalition this time. And we will fight for democracy. And I think you will be all surprised. You know, this coming election is going to be one of the... I'll make a prediction right now. And remember this. So after 1970, this will be the second election, which will probably be bring the biggest revolution through the ballot box.
With all due respect to all my audience and even to Imran Khan, there is a point being raised that this is not a political rally. We are here to raise money for Imran Khan's cancer hospital. So any questions that anybody has related to the hospital and related to the fund-raising activities of today, you are more than welcome. Any discussions that you want to have about politics and Tehreek-e-Insaf, we can do it in the lobby areas afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Let's not talk about politics. Let's talk about Pakistan instead. Number one, we are building an endowment fund. The endowment fund has reached $10 million, which would have been more, but we had a big crisis in 1997, and so we had to utilize our endowment fund, you know, to cover the deficit. But now you see what's happening is that we are setting up more and more diagnostic centers in Pakistan. The money we make from the diagnostic center goes into funding the hospital, covering the deficit. We started off with only 15% of the income was initially generated by the hospital. 85% had to be donations. Today, between 40 to 45% is now generated by the hospital. So what we hope is that endowment fund will go up and we will raise this from 45 to maybe 60% would be generated by the hospital. And that the income from the endowment fund eventually will cover the deficit. But you see, remember, this is the most unique experiment in the world. You have no cancer hospital where you have 70% free treatment. There's nowhere in the world. You don't know one cancer hospital, a private cancer hospital where you have 70% free treatment. Even the governments here will subsidize cancer hospitals. Even those go short of funds. So, you know, it's normally, of course, when Tehreek-e-Insaf government comes to power, we hope that, you know, the money will be moving towards welfare. I hope that the government will be people's government, where, you know, the government takes responsibility like that. We will divert resources from these unproductive areas and raise enough taxes so that we not raise the level of taxes, but raise enough tax revenues by taxing the rich who don't pay taxes and actually direct it towards these hospitals and schools. We have started a research center, and you will be very glad to know that Shaukat Khanum Cancer Hospital's doctor has isolated 2 breast cancer genes in Pakistan. We've just done a paper on that, which is a big breakthrough. But obviously research needs a lot of money. As far as alternate medicine goes, we have a, you know, when I was just coming up, this Hakeem in D.I. Khan called me up and said, I can treat blood cancer. Sometimes when we have such requests, we do take their whatever you know, nuska they're using, and we try and do laboratory tests on that. And but so far we haven't had much success.
What's your views on the hospitals in Mexico then? You know, all these alternative therapies?
I've heard. Our doctors keep. We refer all these alternate medicines to them. But from what I gather, they say that still, you know, the proven treatment is still, you know, what the conventional treatment is. But, you know, I'm not an expert in this. Well, I have to be honest, okay. I mean, much as I would like to say that Bradford is the greatest city in the world, and that's why I chose it, it's not true. The reason I came here was because I had a vested interest. I'm setting up a technical college in Mianwali. 91% of our workforce in Pakistan is unskilled. And from Shaukat Khanum, I realized that whereas there's massive unemployment and there's no shortage of unskilled worker, when you want skilled worker, you have to pay 3 times as much as you pay a worker in India. So I realized that, you know, and of course, as you move away from the center, there are hardly any educational institutes. So the system of education is in a really bad way. Mianwali, 70% of schools are closed. Massive unemployment. So I thought that on the whole Western Rim, if I created a center of excellence, a technical college, which made people employable, so I would be doing 2 things. One, I would be providing employment in areas which are totally deprived. And so when you provide employment to one person, he lifts his own family and extended family up. And secondly, I would be providing skilled workers to the Pakistan industry, which is badly needed. So that's how I decided to build this technical college in the most beautiful spot in Mianwali, 2.5 hours from Islamabad. There's a beautiful lake in front, mountains behind. And the villagers gave me 40 acres of land. And so we started building this college. And first of all, I thought I'll just build, you know, an ordinary technical college. But then, you know, I always get ambitious when I start. So my ambition started going further, me getting carried away. And I suddenly thought, why not make the best technical college in Pakistan, which then becomes a model for all other technical institutes. So then I thought the best way to do it was to have affiliation with a foreign university or a technical college, which would then help me set it up, because there was no such model in Pakistan. Meanwhile, I got this wonderful offer to become, and I think it was Adiba who worked on it, and Muhammad Ali, and of course Tahir Nawaz here, who said, look, would you want to become Chancellor of Bradford University? And I was still not sure, because I didn't know, because I have already my plate full in Pakistan, and I didn't know how much time it would take here, how much of my personal time it would take. But they only assured me that it'd be 3 days in a year. So when they said that, I said, okay, fine, that suited me. And then I spoke to Bradford, and they've been actually extremely cooperative. I must say they've been more than helpful in every way. Not only did I'm going to sign a MOU on Thursday with Bradford University. This college, Numal College, will become affiliated to Bradford University. They will then send people to actually develop it. And of course, now I'm already getting carried away. Now I'm already thinking of it as a university in coming years. So, and secondly, of course, then connections with Shaukat Khanum Hospital, with our research center, because they have an excellent research department here. So that was my interest, and in turn, I thought I'll come here and, the Asian community here, if I can help them sort of raise their self-esteem and feel that, they are not inferior to anyone, because our younger people, they suffer racism here, as we all know, and when I first came here, I saw this. And so, it'll be a two-way thing, me associated there, more integration. So I thought I will also do my bit there. So I thought it would work both ways.